Hi there.
Hi, welcome back to Curious Collection. I'm Will.
I'm Cinnamon.
So yesterday we talked about the introduction of our 4-part series. We're going to talk about starting your own reselling business. And yesterday we talked about naysayers and how, most of these people are people that, genuinely care for you. They know that this is hard work. They know that most businesses fail. And they know that,
it's outside the norm.
It's not right. It's not normal, and the safety net is very thin. Mm-hmm. So, you won't listen to them, and you won't listen to me if I tell you not to do it either. So the best I can do for you is give you some tips and tricks, and point you in the right direction, and try to guide you into this role that you're not going to stop. It doesn't matter what I say. So, looking forward, we want to think about starting a business as a rocket ship. And rockets have to establish escape velocity. They have to get away from that pulling force that's holding them to the earth. And, corporate jobs or any type of employment really is going to have that same thing. It's going to have a perceived sense of security. Mm-hmm. It's going to have some benefits that you don't know how to get on your own. And they're going to take care of some easy things like taxes so that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So
there's a huge safety net in having a corporate job,
right,
that so many people just don't understand how to get away from it.
Right. And, that's by design, right? Our system is designed around employers or capital class and worker class. So if you were working for somebody else, you're part of the working class. Doesn't matter what the title is. So you're not going to just be able to quit your job. That's not how this works. Mm-hmm. We're not going to go and flip a switch one day and go from being a worker to a fully functional business that's making enough money that you can completely support yourself and your family, for generations to come.
Right. We're not trying to say that it's quick and easy. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. And right, this is not something that you can just do overnight.
Right. So for us personally, this was a building process.
That took many years.
Took several years. I had established that I wanted to leave my employment. We were still dependent on yours for a couple of years after that. But it allowed me to, allowed us to be in a position we were living on one income, mm-hmm, to where we could then build a business. So don't plan on just leaving your job tomorrow because you watched this video. That's right, not how this works. And, this really applies to any industry, not just, mm-hmm, reselling. Starting a business, universally, there's
so much that goes into it.
There's a lot of steps that go into it, and a lot of the steps are the same. It doesn't matter if you're starting a concrete business or you're starting a reselling business or a lawn care business or anything, mm-hmm, in between. There's licensing that needs to be established. There's business structure that needs to be established. There's bank accounts that need to be established. So we're going to dig into that a little bit deeper. And, when you're thinking about starting a business, the first thing you need to do is get prepared yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not going to just be able to walk away from your job if you're buried in debt. If you can't breathe, that's not going to work. Mm-mm. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at what we would need to replace our income. Mm-hmm. So if we wanted to, personally in our household, we look at our sales and we go, okay, well, we're roughly 50% of our sales is profit. So we could take that as income, basically. So
we need to figure out what the household can live off of.
Right. So for us, we determined that we need to make a minimum of $100,000 a year in sales in order to get $50,000 in income. That is the least our household can live on comfortably. Mm-hmm. Again, it's going to be different for every person out there.
Right.
If you have a car note, it's going to be higher. If you have a mortgage, it might be 2 or 3 times that number.
Yeah.
So
if you have credit card debt, you
right,
have to work that into your budget, and
right,
and you have to be able to look at your budget and say, okay, this is what our budget is, and don't forget to add a little bit extra for miscellaneous things, because miscellaneous things happen every single month. So you have to have a plan on paper so that you can actually see where your money is going.
Right. So the best tip I can give you is that sales are inconsistent. We know that we're currently in the summer cycle, and our sales are, 40, 50% less than what they will be in December. We have to be able to live
off of those
in June and July.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that your slowest months are going to be sufficient to cover your life expenses. And when you get those big months, you're going to save that excess to carry you through and give you a little bit of cushion. Next thing is we need to make sure that we have our debt as low as possible. When we have less debt, it means our income requirements are lower.
Right.
If we more had safety net.
If we had an additional, $10,000 in debt that we have to spend every year, that means that we would have to make an additional $20,000 in sales. And that's with our very good 50% margin. Most resale businesses are in that 25 to 50% margin. So if your business is closer to 25%, you would have to make 4 times your debt in order to be able to support your household with your business. So you really, really have to know your numbers. It's so important. And just get rid of the debt, because then you don't have to make all of those extra, for...
Right. So once we've knocked down that debt and we've established a low cost lifestyle, we want to start building up some cash reserves that we're going to have in our emergency fund. We suggest 6 months.
We do. I know that seems like an insane amount of money that you'll never be able to get to, but you have to be super intense and intentional in every part of this if you want it to succeed. So you have to get rid of your debt, and then you have to have some type of emergency fund, because the summer months come every year. Every year there's a slump somewhere, or there's, a poor economy. Like, you have to be able to, or your car breaks down, or, you come across something that you really have to have in your business inventory, or whatever the case may be. You have to be able to account for emergencies in your business and in your household.
Right. So we want to make sure that we have, again, cash reserves, that money being saved in a bank account, not in the stock market. It's not invested. We're not gambling with it.
Right. You need cash on hand.
It is literal cash in a bank account that we can get access to within 24 hours.
Right.
The next thing is, funding capital for our business. If you're watching this, you're probably already interested in reselling and reselling content. You probably are already selling on some platforms, but you're not really a business yet. You may be getting compensated from the platform. They're writing a check in your name to your address at your home. You're functionally a business as far as the IRS is concerned, and they call it a sole proprietorship. I'm not a CPA. And so that's the next thing that we're going to talk about, is that, you need to talk to a CPA to help you establish the best form of business for what your plans are long term.
Which means you have to have those plans in place so that you can have a conversation with someone who understands the tax laws and all of the implications that go along with that. So you have to figure out what it is that you want first, and then have a conversation with your tax guy so that he can kind of help guide you. Okay, that's a really great idea. I see what you're talking about there. These are the local laws that you have to be aware of in that case, or these are the state laws, or these are those specific laws for that industry. We don't know all of those things.
Right.
That's why we have a professional help us.
We couldn't possibly know for every community across the entire country. For our international sellers, you guys, I'm sure, have local laws that you have to abide with as well, and local accounting standards. So obviously you're going to want to talk to your CPAs in your countries, because there's certain requirements here that there may not be in your country. And there's certain benefits that are given through employers in this country that you might not get in your country either, or vice versa. You guys might have some really lucrative benefits.
Right. But that's something that your tax guy is going to know. And you have to explain your goals and wants and situation.
Right. So, with regard to business structure, there's some things that we all need to keep in mind. Do you want to have an employee with your business? If this is something that you're looking to do, you need to make sure that you have a business structure that allows for employees. A sole proprietor does not, and again, I'm not a CPA, but a sole proprietor, to my understanding, does not have the ability to have employees. You can hire a contractor that can contract work for you, but you can't hire an employee. There's certain regulations around employees that you have to be aware of.
Payroll taxes.
As an employer, you have to match their Social Security contribution. If you're a sole proprietor, you're paying 100% of that Social Security contribution every month.
For yourself, yeah.
There's also the Medicare. If you're in the U.S., we have a 6% tax on your earnings as a sole proprietor for Medicare. If you're an employee, you're only normally paying half that. Mm-hmm. So there is this self-employment tax as sole proprietors where we're kind of penalized for being sole proprietors. It's more lucrative to be an employee.
That's something you need to be aware of so that you can plan for that accordingly.
Right. So something else that we need to be aware of. If you're the owner of a business, you own more than 10%, you do not qualify for disability insurance. Mm-hmm. So you need to self-insure against that by having additional income, extra capital in your bank account. If you hurt your back, if you fall down a flight of stairs, this is on you personally to be able to cover those expenses.
Right. Because you cannot insure.
Right. You're not insured by an employer. The other thing is unemployment. If your business fails and you own the business, there's no unemployment insurance. You're not going to go stand down at the local office and get your check every month.
Which is again why we say that you do need to have 6 months of emergency fund available to you in cash, not invested in the markets, because if there's an emergency, you need to have something that you can fall back on.
Right. So that brings us up to bank accounts. Right. We're going to have bank accounts and selling accounts for any different platforms that we're going to sell on. And so what I would say is if you're out there and you're already selling on platforms, that's great. The business is probably your name. Mm-hmm. And I would highly suggest if you're at that point, if you're just starting reselling, go to the bank, get an account that you use specifically for that business.
Right. If you don't have, an LLC or anything like that, that's fine. You don't have to do that. But at least have that money separate so that it makes it easier to have your receipts, to do your P&Ls, to keep your books. It's really, really important that you keep your books. Right. It really is. I can't tell you how important it is. Even if it's just a matter of there are, Excel spreadsheets out there that you can download and just simple things that you can keep your expenses and things like that. But you have to keep your books.
Right. And seriously, we could do a video on every single step of this and stretch this out for a month. I mean, there's that much information. And like I said, we're not experts on it. We want you to talk to an expert. Most resellers have never sat down and talked to a CPA. Maybe they've got a tax guy from, one of those, shops in the mall or something, but they've never actually sat down and talked to a CPA about business structure and defining what your business is and insuring your business.
We were talking about yesterday, you don't accidentally fall into owning your own business.
Right.
So
a lot of people are out there.
You have to be intentional.
Right. A lot of people are resellers as a hustle. And that's where we're making that defining point is we're not going to do this as a hustle. This is our full-time job and business. So
if that's something that you want to do, there's things that go into that to make it successful.
Right. So, we're going to have that bank account for it if we're sole proprietors. If we're a business, we're going to take our business, our tax ID number, and we're going to take that to the bank, and we're going to get all of the assets for the business in the business name.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put your selling accounts in that business name. And so there's multiple things there. There's tax advantages that are there by having that business. There's also protections when you have it in a business name. If you're working as a sole proprietor, or then 100% of the risk of that business is on you personally. So, if you're operating as a business, you can insure your business, you can insure your assets.
But again, these are things that your accountant, is going to be able to help you out with.
Right. So once that business is established, you may want to talk to your accountant, your CPA, about setting up a DBA, doing business as. So your name may be Will, but you operate a business called Curious Collection as your username on eBay. So maybe it makes sense to have a business name that's doing business as Curious Collection.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense. You want to take that name across multiple platforms. Now you have a DBA that allows you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's another advantage to having a corporation. And again, you're going to talk to your CPA about this, a reseller's license. Most states are going to require some form of sales tax. Most of us sole proprietors out here, we're just trying to make a couple of sales on eBay. We're paying sales tax at different thrift stores, auction houses, stuff like that. We worked it out. For us, that's about $600 a year
mm-hmm.
in sales tax. So, talk to your CPA about getting that reseller's license.
But again, you're going to need to know your numbers, because if you're only spending $100 in inventory for the year, then you're only talking about $6 in sales tax. So is that really worth getting a sole proprietorship for saving $6 or your taxes and stuff? So these are things that you're gonna need to, which is also why we say don't do this overnight, right? Don't quit your job and then get into this, because it's something that does take time and you want to do it the right way.
Right.
And that doesn't mean quit your job and start your business the same day. So, like we had talked about the fact that he started this business while I was still working full time.
I started this business while I was still working full time.
Right.
And for the first 5 months, I was working a full-time job, as well as acquiring inventory, starting to save capital within that business, rolling that capital as I would make sales and build it out bigger.
We had already paid off all of our debt.
Right.
So that step was done for us. So like there were a lot of things that went into this. And
the reality is, I know we talk about debt a lot, guys. I never would have risked quitting my job if we had debt.
Right.
I'm not a fly by the seat of my pants type of person. I am a
shocking, isn't it?
methodical person. I am plain toast. That I am not trying to make.
He is
rash
stability
decisions.
Personified.
Right.
I love it.
So that's what we want for you. We want you guys to be able to plan the stuff out. Think about long-term goals, long-term effects of your decisions. There's nothing wrong with leaving corporate work. Now, we did have a comment on yesterday's video, and people are saying, well, I wouldn't recommend people go as full-time, business as resellers because of the legal implications that could be coming down the line with regard to reselling. Okay. We told you it's a terrible idea to be a reseller. We told you it's a terrible idea to give up corporate work because there's stability around that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier. It's literally easier.
And look at all the steps that we're telling you have to take in order to have a successful business.
This is before we've even made a single sale.
Right.
We need to talk to CPAs. We need to talk to tax advisors.
You've got to have a business plan.
Right. There's a lot that goes into this, and it is not easy, and it's not going to be a turnkey business. It's going to take time and sweat and a lot of effort. But the good news is that, all of these steps can be achieved. Every business that's out there across the entire country.
They all had to start somewhere.
All started from the same place. They all had to talk to some CPAs. They had to get things drafted up. they had to get those tax licenses and tax permits and all of that stuff.
You just have to be intentional every step of the way.
Right.
When he's talking about like that rocket ship velocity, like that is how we've gotten through so many changes in the seasons of our life. Like we've been together almost 20 years. So there's been a lot of different seasons in our life. And when we had to pack up our entire household and move states, and like the amount of work that was involved in that, as because he was leaving his corporate job at the same time. I had to get my nurse's license changed into different states. I was changing my job at the same time. I had to find a job in Florida for nursing. Like there were so many things, getting everything packed up, getting all of our loose ends tied up
trying to sell a house
Michigan.
At the same time.
Right. Like I swear there were 5 million tasks that had to be done.
Right. And, a lot of people will work their eBay businesses. They'll work their like I said, they'll do it as a side hustle. They might do 1 or 2 listings a day, maybe 5 to 10 a week.
And that's awesome.
That's a great place to start.
Absolutely.
But when we're talking about moving to a position where we're going to cut those ties, we're going to break those gravitational binds that hold us to that work that for us, we hated. I hope you saw the video. We hated the work that we were doing, and go and pursue something different. You're not just out on a ledge, you're out on your own. And so you need to really pour into that, everything that you have, for as long as it takes to get to that position of that weightlessness. And that really is like a huge, huge challenge. And again, that's why I say nobody should own their own business. It's foolish. But the amount of benefits it is for us certainly makes it worth the effort.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Tomorrow on our 4-part series, we are going to talk about work-related benefits. We're going to talk about how do I take care of those quarterly taxes, right? Your employer is going to pay your taxes for you. We're going to talk about healthcare insurance. We're going to talk about all of the different aspects of that, whether it's your main policy, or talk about eyes, dental, talk about short-term and long-term disability insurance. We're going to talk about retirement funding. All of those things that your employers take care of you.
Right. So you've
never had to think about. Right. You don't know how much it even costs because the employer is just told you what you have to buy. They're not even giving you an option. Or if they do, it's the good plan or the okay plan.
Right.
Like that's the way it was always presented to me. It's like, well, you got 2 choices. This one's good. This one's okay. You'll be alive either way. So tune in with us tomorrow. We're going to talk about benefits, what we did, who we talked to in order to get our benefits set up, and what those costs look like for us.
Right.
So if you're curious about, well, what if I did want to get my own healthcare insurance? We're going to talk about it. So, and we'll tell you what we think about it. So I hope you guys tune in tomorrow. Please like and subscribe.
All right. Thanks so much. Good luck to you guys out there.